So please welcome our guest speaker for today.
Thank you for that kind introduction. Should I start now?
Yes.
It's my son, and he is a member of AAPI, so Alex Rodriguez. This is my family, and I'd like to ask the audience, what nationality or what part of Asia do you think I came from? For those who don't know me. Any guess?
What's your guess?
Thailand?
I can't hear.
Thailand?
Nope.
Is she from the
Good
Philippines?
guess.
Where?
The Philippines?
Philippines.
That's correct. So whoever said Philippines is correct. So I immigrated from the Philippines, and I have an outline of what I wanted to discuss today. First, I want to introduce you to my country where I grew up, the Philippines, and my journey through medical school, my medical training in Pittsburgh, and my work as a medical oncologist in Alexandria, which is about 2.5 hours north of Minneapolis. And I also wanted to discuss how different is life in the United States compared to my life in the Philippines. I'm guessing a lot of you are were born in the United States or immigrated while you were young. The last would be the long journey to become a U.S. citizen. And so I'm gonna ask some audience participation at times, not a lot, but feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. So this is the map of the world, and I hope you could see my arrow, but this is the United States on the left, and there's this big arrow where the Philippines is, which is really far away from the United States. So if we travel to visit family, it takes us at the minimum about 22 hours. But it's not uncommon that we lose about 2 to 3 days one way just to visit. So this is my family from a few years ago, and this is the traditional clothes that Filipinos would wear. For example, if there's a party or a traditional show. And this is Alex on the left side, who is an AAPI member. So unfortunately, he's not here to join us for this because he is still in class in Alexandria. So what was it like growing in the Philippines? Well, first of all, there were lots of people, lots of families. So this is a picture of one time we visited with some of our immediate family, but it's not uncommon that a household will include not just parents and kids, but will include grandparents, brothers and sisters who are married with kids. So, and the holidays was always filled with lots of family to visit. Unlike Minnesota, the Philippines is surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. So we grew up with a lot of beaches that we could swim in. We're not afraid of the water. And there's a lot of different food, Asian food, similar to Chinese, Thai, Malaysian food. So rice is a staple, and there's a lot of different food that we really don't eat here in Minnesota, like different kinds of fresh water and seawater type of fish, seafood, and different kinds of meat dishes. So, did you have any questions about the Philippines?
Not yet.
So if not, then I'll move on to my journey through medical school. So I put this picture here because it's actually this year, 2024, is my class's 25th anniversary from when we finished medical school. Now, how many years do you think it takes to become a medical doctor after you start college? Any guess?
8 years.
Okay, 8 years. That's true for the United States. So in the Philippines, we graduate from high school at age 16, not 18 like here. And there's 4 years of undergraduate medical school, and undergraduate degree like BS Biology. And then medical school is actually 4 plus 1, so 5 years, and that includes an internship already. So 9 years to become a medical doctor in the Philippines. Here in the United States, it could be as short as 8 years if you go straight from undergraduate to medical degree. But it's not uncommon that a lot would do a research year or a gap year because it's very competitive. So when I was in medical school in the Philippines, my parents paid for my medical school. So in the Philippines, you cannot afford your education if your parents won't support you. There's no such thing as student loans. So my parents paid for my medical school, and I was going to be a doctor in the Philippines. But my mom told me if I want, I could go on a free trip to Canada and the United States after my medical school. So of course I said yes. And then she told me, well, then why don't you take the exams in the United States, since I just anyway finished my board exam for medical school in the Philippines. So in the United States, after medical school, before you go to your training, what we call residency, you have to take 2 exams. So it's called USMLE, United States Medical Licensure Exam, Step 1 and Step 2. So you have to pass those before you go to residency. So I took those, I passed with good scores, and then she told me, why don't you apply to residency programs in the United States? The application process is very expensive for someone coming from a third world country because you have to pay for, it's online, you pick the schools you want to apply to, and then you submit all your papers. There's a fee for that, and then the schools will review your credentials and offer you an interview. Now for an interview, you have to fly to that place. I was based in Florida then, and so I have to fly to New York, fly to Philadelphia, fly to Pittsburgh, and there's hundreds of residency programs in the United States. I only got interviews for 5, and that's because how many years do you think it took after graduating with an MD degree? I had a training visa. It's called a J1 visa. So that visa allows a foreigner to come to the United States to train, and I have to renew that visa every year. So afterwards, if you want to stay in the United States, well, you need to change your visa so that you could continue to stay here and to work legally. And the only path for that, if you have a training visa, a J1 visa, will be to go to a medically underserved community. And Alexandria used to be a medically underserved community. So that's why I applied there. I actually had 2 friends who are doctors who were working there, and they were the one who told me, why don't you apply here? So, in Alexandria, it used to be a rural community, but it really is a great place to live in. We have a lot of lakes from Fergus Falls, but like many other medical fields, we are short of doctors. So I work on my own. I work in a clinic in the hospital, but I also go to see patients in the hospital. And what I do is after a person is diagnosed with cancer through a biopsy, I see them, I perform or order different tests for their workup, and then I prescribe the medications needed to treat their cancer. So I also deal with patients, adults, who have blood disorders, clotting disorders, and other things that we call benign hematology problems. So right now, I do think my lifestyle is pretty good. I only work 4 days a week, so I'm at home right now. So 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday. But I used to work all the time, even on the weekends, and I'm on call for my patients. So it is a very rewarding career. So being a doctor, especially being a medical oncologist and hematologist, has been a very rewarding career for me. Now, Alexandria, being a rural community, there's very few Asians in this community, and even less Mexicans, even less African Americans. And you know how in Minneapolis there's a lot of Somali, there's none in Alexandria. So it's a predominantly Caucasian community. But as a medical doctor and medical professional, the patients are very courteous. There's no issues that I've had with a patient relationship, so which has been really good. And that's not the same in different places, especially in urban communities. Do you have any questions about my work as a doctor?
Is hematology the study of like the tumor?
Okay, well, if you don't have questions, that's good. I wanted to say that there's some stereotypes about Asians. So my husband is also Asian. I showed you his picture, he's Filipino. Well, here in Alexandria, there is a place where you could get your nails done. And my husband always gets mistaken for the Asian male who works there, but he doesn't work there. So there's some stereotypes, and there's also one sushi place here, who the sushi chef is Asian. My husband always gets mistaken for that person. They don't really look us of our skin color and our face, even though we have very different specialties and very different names. So those are some things that people don't realize. And I always get asked where I am from, which is to me just a curiosity, and I never get offended about that. Since you're all teenagers, let me tell you about my kids. So I have 2 children, and I earlier said there's not a lot of Asians in Alexandria. So my daughter shared with me that her classmates, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 other Asians, they assumed that she was adopted because they were all adopted. So their parents are Caucasian, and they got adopted from different Asian countries. So she's the only Asian with 2 Asian parents. So I don't know how it is in your community there, because I know there's more diversity, but it was interesting to hear that. So the last that I wanted to talk about is how different is life in the United States compared to the Philippines and its effect on our family. I really think that the life in the United States, especially for those like me who is highly trained and highly educated, is way better compared to even those with the same profession in my country or other Asian third world countries. So I really appreciate the opportunities that I've benefited from because I live here. Now, has any of you heard about the joke of being an Oreo?
No.
Okay, I'm sharing this because I just heard it over the weekend. My daughter, her friends are all Caucasian and they really have a good time. And she sometimes tells me that she feels more Caucasian or white than them. I don't know if you've heard about, I don't really know what a whitewashed person is, but she sometimes says that. And another immigrant told me when I met them last weekend that some feel like they're an Oreo. So what that means is they look brown on the outside or look Asian, Mexican, or other ethnicity, but because they're born in the United States and they live the American life, they really feel like how everyone else feel who are born in the United States, which is majority Caucasian. So I thought that was interesting, and so I wanted to share that with you. I myself, I kind of still feel like I'm Filipino, but it's really, when you're an immigrant, it's hard to say which country you identify with. I feel like my country, of course, is the United States. But do I feel more comfortable here or in the Philippines? I think it's in between. It's not, it's hard to really say. And please give me some comments if you like at any time. And I also, lastly, wanted to just give you an idea of how long do you think is the journey from having a visa as a foreigner to becoming a U.S. citizen?
What do you got?
6 years.
6 years.
All right, 6 years. Okay. Well, I think that's fair. So let me tell you how it is for me. So there's a quick way. So for some, they would marry a U.S. citizen. I think that takes really a short time, maybe 3 years. You always have to have a green card before you become a U.S. citizen if you are a foreigner by birth. So some, after having a green card for 3 years, then you could apply to become a U.S. citizen. So for me, it took a really long time because I trained, so I was a J1 visa for 7 years. And then I had the working visa for 3 years. And then I had my green card for 3 years. So that's 6 plus 7, so 13 years before I could apply to become a U.S. citizen. And if my husband was not a U.S. citizen, then that would have been 15 years. The marriage to a U.S. citizen does not change that training visa, the J1 visa. So it does take a long time. Okay, that's a really good question. So I know in medical school that I hated delivering pregnant women. So I knew I didn't want to be an obstetrician, and I knew I really don't like to cut and sew a lot, so I didn't want to be a surgeon. I liked the lifestyle of an internist, so I wanted to be in internal medicine and deal with adults. How I decided to be a hematologist oncologist is during my internship, I did diagnose someone with early stage thyroid cancer. Just by palpation, you feel a lump, and then you do the workup. And of course, cancer is such a devastating medical condition. and I like that. So that's how I ended up being a cancer doctor. Why a hematologist? Well, because you could do both for 3 years instead of 2 for each. So I thought it was good to have a wider range.
Nice.
When was the last time you visited the Philippines?
When was the last time you visited the Philippines?
Okay, thanks. So I'm actually blessed that I get to go to the Philippines at least now almost every year. So I went to the Philippines last December. I'm planning to go again this December. And we were just there the previous December. That's because my parents are elderly, so they can't travel. They don't want to visit. And so I try to go, I try to bring my family. Not all the time, but at least try our best to visit.
What part of the Philippines are you from?
What part of the Philippines are you from?
I'm from Metro Manila, which is Luzon, in the middle of the country.
Are tricycles and jeepneys still around?
Are tricycles and jeepneys still around?
Yes, they're still there, yes. And I actually had my son and daughter ride them last time we were there.
Other questions? What? No other questions? I can't see, no? Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
Emma, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah. So why don't we first give a round of applause to our guest speaker? And thank you, Marion, for coming today. Can she hear me?
Can you hear Emma? She said thank you for coming today.
Yes, thank you. So I'm gonna leave the meeting now. Have a
Okay.
good day. Bye.
Thank you too. It's just you guys. Thank you.